Welcome to She Manifests Wealth Formula podcast. I'm Liene Uresina, a master of subconscious mind, entrepreneur, and a creator of best-rated course on manifestation, wealth formula. With experience coaching 15,000 plus people, I have crafted a 15-minute formula to solve any problem, aiming to transform health, wealth, and relationships. In this podcast, I strive to showcase real-life transformation stories that bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to be. Let's manifest our lives together because nothing is impossible when we are the conscious creators of our life. Thank you for tuning in today, and let's begin. Welcome to She Manifests podcast. I have a dear guest, Jennifer Partridge, and I'm so looking forward to talk to you and hear everything about your story. Usually I like when people introduce themselves because we don't want to make it official. We just want that you share from your heart what you are, what's your mission, and why you are here.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for having me on the show. I'm so happy to be here. So I teach a modality called tapping, emotional freedom technique. And this was a modality that came into my life about 13 years ago.
Mhm.
I really entered the path to begin with in my own personal healing journey. I had early sexual trauma as a child. I had a lot of PTSD that was creating a lot of suppressed symptoms and pain and struggle, and it was really hard to work through. I tried many different types of modalities, and when I discovered tapping, it was the one that really healed me and just took me like on a very fast track in my evolution. So I became very passionate about it, and then I started teaching, doing one-on-one clients. And as I continue to grow through that, I realized that this really is my pay it forward to the planet. Like, my purpose is to really support collective healing on the planet, to support not only myself and others, but now to train coaches in this method. So I train coaches in how to not only master the technique themselves, I take them through a 6-month certification program, but also how to build their businesses. Because I know that when we can have successful businesses as coaches, then we're actually able to touch more people and we're able to support the collective healing in a greater way. So my work has continued to process in that. And then I work with lots of different platforms, Mind Valley, Commune, Deepak Chopra, lots of different kinds of networks that allow my work to spread across the planet.
Wow, that's very impressive. And so I see you've been, achieving a lot of things like Mind Valley, Deepak Chopra, and everything else. What do you think has been the biggest reason why you are, why people acknowledge you? I know you are a great professional, but there must be some vibration or the secret. What do you think? Why you are more in this, impacting more people's lives?
Mm-hmm. No, I just want to feel that. It's a great question. Let's take a moment to feel that. I think because I'm really dedicated. I think dedication and that continual dedication has allowed me to grow. And I've been dedicated from a very young age. And I think a lot of us like see the results, but this is many years of being deeply dedicated, and dedication that's coming from a deeper mission, not just to make money and to have some outward success, but to actually really be on a mission that you truly deeply believe in and are really committed to. So that level of depth and commitment inside of my being, to persevere even when things don't work out, and to find new ways, to test things out, to take leaps of faith, to put myself out there, to trust in myself. All of these shape the energy that I bring, and create the confidence inside of me to go for what I want, because I often work with a lot of the coaches that I train, and getting past different things like imposter syndrome or fears of rejection, and recognizing that it's not really about you at the end of the day, it's about the mission. And when you can
Mhm.
take the pressure off, it's about you and it's more about like, how much good can I do? Then people feel that and people want to be a part of that because they're a part of the mission then versus like
Mhm.
anything that you're carrying about yourself and whether or not you're going to get rejected or whether or not people are going to like you. It's no longer about that.
Mhm. So if the person would come and say, Jennifer, I'm so dedicated. I feel like I'm doing everything, but nothing is working. What would you say to this person? And I have a feeling I have this mission, and I think I should be moving forward so much faster than I'm doing right now.
Mhm.
How
Well,
can I fast forward my success?
mhm. Well, I'm going to tell you something that probably might not make sense to more of the masculine way of doing business, but for me, it's all about there's a blend of the masculine and the feminine that's required for my life in order to be magnetic to the things that I want. And I think as women, we need to exercise our feminine magnetism in addition to the structure in terms of the goal setting, the forward motion, like all of the masculine structure is important, but we can't lose our connection to our feminine essence. Because that's what radiates. It's what draws people to you. And if you're not in your feminine essence, it's not very inspiring. People want to see someone that's lit up and turned on and excited by what they're up to. And I think sometimes with all of the pressure that we can put on ourselves around success, the old model, which is what I think we're trying to transcend on the planet right now, is this like burnout model, is this stress model, and also asking ourselves, why are we as a culture like pushing ourselves so much into burnout? What is underneath that? And I think that so much of the world have become so fixated on success outside of ourselves that we're not taking care of what's inside of ourselves. So wanting to get that validation, wanting to prove ourselves, wanting to be recognized, I'm going to be amazing, right? And forgetting about the present moment. And so
Mhm.
my practice in my own being is, how do I really light myself up in my life and then bring that to everything that I'm doing? And that then just creates magnetism because you love what you're up to. And sometimes I work with clients who they're working on launches and things like that, and they go into like big stress of like, I'm not selling the amount that I want to be selling, and they put so much pressure on themselves. And I think a lot of all that pressure comes back to not really loving yourself exactly as you are and knowing that you're going to do the best that you can. You're going to put all your energy in and you're going to get whatever results are meant to be there, right? But if you put all this pressure on yourself when you're trying to sell and everything, you're going to lose your magic. And then when you lose your magic, people don't want to be involved with you because it's like, that's not super
Absolutely.
inspiring. You're exhausted, you're stressed out, people
Absolutely.
feel it. I've been to events where people like, and one of the other things, I've been doing events for like 12 years or something. And earlier on, when I started to doing events, before I had production teams around me, like I would be at an event, like wanting to do all the things and kind of stressing out. And then people are welcoming people in the door. You have to be the grace. You have to hold the grace. You have to take care of yourself. And so, yeah, if I was stressed out, then people feel that. And so, like,
Mhm.
nourishing myself as number one is important. And that naturally makes people want to jump on board because they're like, hey, I want what she's got versus like, oh, she's like super stressed out right now. Like, does she really have what I want?
Exactly. That's what I'm always saying, that people don't come to my programs because of the knowledge that I have. Of course, that's important, but they are coming to get the energy, the charisma, and all of these components that makes them feel like, oh, I want to be around her. There is something magical. And if you are the burnout, as you said, and then you are feeling, drained, everything just about the achievement. And it's the culture, right? The cultural, the pushing that we have, that you are nobody if you don't achieve something. I think all the time the fear of not being recognized and loved, this is what's pushing us, right?
Yeah. and then also a lot of like unprocessed survival stuff in the background as well. So, and I work with multi-millionaires, people that are very at the top of their game, and I witness the ones that are making shit ton of money still freaking out around survival. So it's
Mm,
like no amount of money,
mm,
because when you have more money, you invest in more things, you play bigger games, you have like more
mhm,
risk, da, 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 da. And it's like, so if you actually don't clear out your survival fears,
mhm,
it doesn't matter how much money you make, you'll always need more and never feel like you have enough. And I
mm.
think that is a big piece that we're rewiring as a culture as well. Like, I have enough exactly as I am, and when we can really feel whole and like take care of ourselves in that way, that we actually don't need a lot. Therefore, everything that we make on top of that is like extra that we can play with, we can invest with, we can donate things to, like we can use that money as an overflow, and we can be more educated with the way that we spend, because I think a lot of people that make a lot of money that still have really deep survival tendencies, they end up like just not being responsible with their money as well, and then they want to play a big game but then they're stressed out. So how can we just come back to like, I'm whole and complete exactly as I am, now what do I want to do?
So, okay, so you said there are a lot of millionaires and that you are working with, and they are still stressed about money. And I'm saying the same thing because I'm also working with a lot of millionaires. And, but if you would, the person would come and say, Jennifer, I want to make 1 million. I'm now 6 figures. Give me the formula. Or what are the priorities that I need to put in place so that I start to make money as fast as possible?
Let me see. Make money as fast as possible. You need a lot of momentum. You need a lot of
Mhm.
momentum.
Mhm.
Uh, you want to make money fast, you do have to crank the engine, right? The times that I've seen my business grow, or I've seen other clients' business grow, is when the engine is on. And that can create burnout. I've seen like businesses go like this, like rocket ships.
Mhm.
And what I've seen in those templates is there's a lot of momentum, like just, and everyone, all hands on deck. Let's go for it. Let's focus our energy. And you have to have a lot of energy within yourself to show up for that if you want to make a lot of money really quickly. And
Mhm.
it does take focus. And for
Mhm.
me, like I'm not into the burnout model personally. Like I'm into sustainable growth,
Mhm.
um, where it's going up in a sustained way. Because for me, and I think everyone that's had different levels of success are going to share what works for them. For me, I want to have sustained growth. I don't necessarily like, I'm open to have these moments where like just massive amounts of money like just drop into my account. Like maybe it's a contract that I get with a client or something, or a corporation, and then there's like a nice big drop of money into the account that happens like that. But like, what about thinking about sustained growth versus
Mhm.
burnout growth as well?
Mhm.
So for me, that's what I'm really about. But I would say if you do want to make a lot of money really quickly, you got to get focused. You got to look at what the most important things are. You also have to look at what is draining your energy. Earlier on in my business, I was spending so much money on things that actually weren't making money back, and
Mm.
we got a large investment put into the
Tell
business.
about those things that you were spending the money and it didn't make money back. What were those things?
And for me, the reason why they didn't make money back is because I was spread too thin. If I had and this is what I was going to say, and I'll tell you what they were. But earlier, and so because I want to be careful not to say these don't make money, it's like the
Mhm.
reason these did not make money was because
Mhm.
I was spread too thin and the business was spread too thin, and we weren't doing anything amazing. We were doing a lot of things. We took on a lot of projects because we had cash flow, we had investment, but as a result, we were just spreading ourselves thin. I was exhausted. We had a podcast, and we did all this at once. We took on an office with a production studio. We created a podcast. We had a membership program that we were launching. We were doing live events and retreats. So there was lots of stuff happening all at once, and some of those things were working, and some of them were not, and they're actually just draining our energy. So the podcast, for example, at that time, this was like probably about 6 years ago. We were producing the podcast on the side. We had a model that we were testing for a membership product at that time. It was a low end model. We were doing like a $33 membership program. And in order to really like sustain and be profitable in a low end model like that, you have to have a big audience, right? Because that big audience needs to convert into paying members. And so every month it was like a push for us. Like, we've got to get a lot of people in. And at that point, I didn't really have any high ticket items. I had retreats that I was running and they were doing well. But I didn't have a high ticket item at that point. And so like this $33 model was not working for me. So I always suggest like, it's great to have like a low end product for sure, but just make sure that that low end product doesn't take up a lot of your time. So that way you can nurture it and it can grow. And as your audience grows, more people can join that. And it becomes something simple as the first step for people to join you in your programs. But you should have a high end product always, right? So that things are taken care of. So then we started doing our certifications. I took my certifications away from retreats and I started creating my 6-month certification, which was more of a high ticket item, a $5,000 product. So then we started to like move into that model, which was like really helping the business get more sustainable as well. And then we started to prioritize like, okay, what really works. And then one of the lessons that I learned, which I often tell my students, is having not a lot of money to start with is actually a really good thing, because you actually get really scrappy. You really make your dollar work for you. You analyze everything. You make sure all the little details are working because you have a limited budget. When you have a limited budget, you make really good decisions because you can't afford to waste a penny. That's why like in early startups, like if they don't have a lot, they like everyone's all on board. Everyone's making it work. Everyone's like playing multiple roles. I've got this hat and that hat, and everyone's just coming together and they're learning a lot. And it's really a smaller team. And then when you have like a larger team, because you have a lot of money, but you actually
How big is your team right now?
My team right now is like 7 people.
Okay, we are on the same page. I have also 7. I just wanted to ask, I really love what, in the first place, I like that you are not just speaking about wishy-washy, you just meditate and then the money comes, pours on your head, because it's really about the business. You need to take action. And not everybody can take action. They just, when there is, because business is all about risks. As bigger risk you're going to take, as more money you're going to make, or more money you're going to lose. So exactly in this momentum, it's all about taking the action. And you can't take action if you are drained or you are not able, it will be just for 20%. But I wanted to understand your mindset back then when you were doing all of those things and you realized, oh my God, I'm doing this, and this. How did you come to the point when you need to say no to something? Like, because it's also for the ego, it's like, how I just built this, how I gonna close, this membership site and, the retreats that you said.
Yeah. Well, I had a team that I was paying every month, that like an expanded team. We had an office that we were running, and there's just so much leaking of money. And it was a really big lesson for me as a business owner to honor like the business as number one, because like I was at that stage, like I want to like take care of everyone, and like I could have brought everyone's hours down because we really didn't need all those hours. And because we had money in the bank, I was like kind of not really honoring what needed to be honored with the business as number one. I was like honoring everyone else and their paycheck and making sure everyone's taken care of. And
except you.
Except me. Exactly. That's
Exactly.
yeah.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And okay, so now I love this. I didn't expect it to be a business conversation, but I think a lot of people will resonate with this. So now, what has shifted in terms of your mindset? Because actually, I'm also speaking with my team. We are on the mission here. We are here to help people. But also, you need to understand business is business. Business is not sustainable by itself. It's still all about the numbers. And you cannot, with your magnetism, just attract the money. You need to look at the numbers. You need to introduce the team. What do you think about it? Can you just show me your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think with magnetism alone, you can actually attract a lot. You can really get into your magnetism and attract a lot, but are you going to make educated decisions about what's needed,
Mm-hmm.
and how to channel the finances and how to reinvest? And
Mm-hmm.
way before I started my business, I got really good in magnetism.
So
You know,
tell me, what do you mean by magnetism?
So just like being in my feminine embodiment and having just like kind of the world show up. Like someone gifted me a BMW once. I like had
That's a
this.
nice magnetism.
Yeah. I went to, it was actually, I don't know if you know the Agape Spiritual Center. It was in one of like Reverend Michael Beckworth's
Yeah,
sermons. He
I
was
love
guiding
you.
everyone through this manifestation meditation. And at this stage in my life, this was probably like maybe 15 or 16 years ago when I started
Okay.
like coming into all of this. He was like guiding this meditation. And I saw this like BMW convertible in my vision of the kind of car I wanted. And at that stage, I was illegal in the country, living in the USA, working under the table, whatever money I could make. I had like a really crappy car, like something that cost maybe like $4,000 or
Mhm.
whatever when I first arrived to USA. And I had this vision of this BMW. So, anyway, like literally 3 days after this vision, a guy walks up to me in my carport and he's like, "Hey, I want to buy your car." And like, I'm like, why would
No
anyone
way.
want to buy my car?
And
But I was like, and then I had this vision. I was like, oh, I remember I had the vision for this other BMW, but I don't think I'm going to get it. But maybe I can take his like purchase and put it as a down payment for another car and get a better car at least. And but the thing was, I was illegal. I had no credit. I couldn't just like, so I needed to get someone to be a co-signer for me. So me and my energy, I called actually my boss that I was working for at this radio station, who ended up being an angel in my life. I was like, would you be open to being a co-signer for me for this car? And so we went to the car place, and I was going to get like a Jetta, like just a
Mhm.
regular car, but like it was going
It's
to have
like
a
a Volkswagen, right?
exactly. It was just going to
That
like,
was my first car as well. Jetta, silver color.
nice. We could have been twins.
Exactly. There are so many similarities. Okay.
Awesome. So anyway, we get to the car place and we go to look at the car, and it's like all like shitty cars in this place, just like regular cars. Sorry, not shitty, I take that back, but just regular cars. There happens to be a BMW in the showroom window.
Mhm.
And my friend looks at the car and he was like, "You should get the BMW."
Mhm.
And I was like, "I can't afford the BMW." And he was like, "Well, I'll get it for you." And he like literally got me this BMW. And
Mm.
it was just like came out of nowhere, like totally unexpected, like just a gift. And I think sometimes with the feminine, what we have to practice is receiving. Because like myself, because I'd just done the vision and I'd done a vision for a BMW, he actually like he just aligned with the frequency of that vision. But then the final step to that is being able to receive, like I could have had
Mm.
all of my insecurities come up and be like, no, like what does he want from me? Or like,
Mhm. Mhm.
I, I'm going to owe him something if he gives that to me, or but like if I'm coming in a really clean place and I'm making sure everything that's coming to me I'm receiving in a clean place as
Mhm.
well, I can abundantly receive, because like it
Absolutely.
feels good for the world to give and it feels good for the world to receive. Like I know when I give money or when I donate to an organization or when I help someone out, it feels really good for me to do that.
Mhm.
And that is the beauty of like a really integrous giver as well. So we have to be both really good at receiving as well as giving. But on this particular time, like I was able to receive that from him, and he gifted it to me. And there it was. I had a convertible all of a sudden. We went and signed the papers. It was probably like 5 or 6 days after I'd had that vision. So and then I just got really good at like being in a space of receiving. I got really good at receiving in my feminine energy, and like receiving in a really clean way and not feeling like I owe anything to anyone other than like, wow, thank you, that's really beautiful. And so I would receive a lot, and then also my receiving then went into my success when I started bringing my masculine energy into like growing my businesses and stuff. That's when they combine together, because it's not just the masculine, you have to have
Mhm.
that energy. And I've done a lot of practice with the feminine. So
So, what do
um,
you see as a balance in business, as a masculine and feminine? How do you see that?
I think there's, for me, and so like I don't know if there's one set way, but for how I do it, and I'm not sure if this is the way for everyone, but like I on my regular day-to-day life, I like to have a 50-50, or maybe even a little bit more feminine, and when my masculine shows up, it really shows up. And then sometimes what I do throughout the year, and again, this is I always tell my students this: there's not one set way. You have to find the way that works for you. Some people have a lot of masculine power and they just want to go for it. For me,
Mhm.
my nervous system, how I work, this is how I individually work. So
So,
rather than like,
describe specifically what does it mean to be in the masculine in the business and to be in your feminine in the business,
mhm.
specifically with actions and behavior.
Yeah, so the masculine is organized. It has spreadsheets. It has organized meetings. It's tracking records. It's reviewing numbers. It's setting projections. It's having a calendar and a map for the year ahead. It's accounting. All of that stuff, all of the practical stuff, and then the action steps taken that you take to make those things happen. And then the feminine is the juice you bring into it, right? It's the joy, it's the overflow. It's also the untangible sometimes, because it's the feeling, it's the sensation. It's bringing your pleasure into it. And then it's also like really trusting that your masculine has your feminine to receive. So you can relax in like having to push all the time. It's an equal push and an equal receive, or an equal going for it and an equal letting go. And sometimes, like, for example, when I do a launch, right before a launch, I'll often have like, I'll be away traveling, and I'll be having a lot of fun, and I'll be like just
Mm.
enjoying myself and being with friends. And then I'll go into like a solid period of a month where I'm like really focused on like achieving results. I'll launch, I'll do my product, I'll be on discovery calls, and that's like a higher masculine energy during those launch periods. And then I'll come out of the launch and then
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm going to the spa,
Mhm.
I'm laying on the beach,
Mhm.
and that's how I move with my masculine and feminine between launches. But then on an everyday basis, I'm maintaining my products and stuff as well. So I have like a certification group that I'm training every week. So I do one call with them once a week. There's content going out to them. And I have a team that takes care of all of the content and everything, but I'm overseeing the team meetings. And then, so in between that, I show up for my live classes, I do my team meetings, I have some one on one clients, and then I enjoy my life as well. I'll go to yoga in the morning, I'll go hang out at the beach, I'll spend time with friends, I'll have
How
bars.
many hours do you work per week?
So, again, depending if it's launch period or if it's just regular. So, I would say at this particular juncture, because I'm just coming off a launch,
Mm-hmm.
I'm now doing about 3 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I'm in a launch, I can do 7 hours a day,
Mm-hmm.
because like I'm really focused. But because I just got off doing 7 hours a day, a lot for a whole month, I'm now like, okay, relax.
You know what I learned from you? Because I'm doing vice versa. I'm pushing like in the moment and then I'm relaxing. But actually, the key point is you go into this vibration, you are relaxed, and then you are going with a different energy and doing your launch, right?
Yeah, and that's what works for me. Like again, everyone works totally
Mhm.
differently. There's not one set way. Like you could try this way and it might work for you, it might not work for you. But there's something that happens when you really are like in a bubble of like real focus. Like when I'm doing those 7 hour days and but I'm taking care of myself as well. I'm not just I'm going to yoga, I'm drinking my juice, I'm going out, I'm like having balance, but like not as much play as what I would normally have because I'm really focused. And those focus bubbles, I gotta be inspired. I gotta be so
Mm.
lit up. I gotta be
Mhm.
inspired in what I'm doing and what I'm creating, because that generates the energy, that generates the magic then. And people then feel the magic. They want to be in the magic. You're creating a vortex of magic around you. And then people want
Share
to join.
your daily rituals, how you are creating magic around you, the vibration and everything else, and magnetism.
Mhm. I mean, for me, I love to move my body. Like I love to just put music on and just dance. I love to roll around. I love to like make sound. I love to just feel my somatic body. So like movement is a really big thing for me. Being in nature, swimming, being in the ocean, doing yoga, getting massages, meditating, doing ceremony work, setting intentions, creating vision boards, painting, like depending on what I feel like at the time. And so many things that can bring me into my feminine, which is like getting out of the head, getting into the body, and just like creative pursuits, things that just like have no goal in mind other than that's just like for the pleasure of it.
Mm. So you are now living in Mexico.
I am.
Yeah, and I read something about shamanism. Tell me about that.
Wow. I think, being on the spiritual path, which has been, I don't know, like 20 years of spiritual path journeying in a discovery. And I think for the first chapter of my spiritual discovery, I was a lot of practice with the Eastern traditions, yoga, meditation, breath work. I spent a year living in India and studying lots of all of the ancient texts, became a yoga teacher. And then in the last 3 years, I moved to Mexico and started learning all about the lineage of shamans, of earth worship, of working with medicines from nature, and working with ancient traditions that these old tribes used to practice. And so I've really dived into that. It's become a big part of my spiritual journey as well and my evolution. And it's actually, there's a lot of magic in it as well. Like when you get into these traditions, like they're working with magic. You're working with all of the elements. So all of the traditions come back to the elements. So earth, air, water, fire. You're working with all of the ether, you're working with the intentions, and then you're placing them into the field. So I'm casting prayers, I'm casting intentions through these ceremonial traditions. And the field is working with you. So you start to like really get in touch with the intelligence of the field that all of creation comes from. When you can get in touch with that field and work with it and create magic through it, basically, things really start to show up for you in your life, and things just you feel much more blessed, and life opens up. But it's not really about the Western perception of success and things like that. It's about really coming back to your wholeness. And when you come back to your wholeness, then whatever is supposed to be for you will be there. And that's the traditions that I'm following right now. I spent some time in Ecuador in the Amazon over New Year's and Christmas, and we were doing a medicine ceremony out there with a really ancient
Ayahuasca?
tribe. Yeah, we were working with ayahuasca, and we flew in these tiny little planes right into the middle of the forest where there are no roads for hundreds of millions of
Mm.
miles. It's just like right in the middle of the
Oh my
forest.
gosh. I've done in the buildings, but I can only imagine to be in the middle of forest. Everything is dark, right? And doing the ceremony.
Yes. And it was beautiful. I mean, I was like puking my guts up. There was like so much coming out of me.
Tell
And
me about that. Been there, done that.
they're not necessarily pretty ceremonies, those ones, but they're so deep, like so much was like being cleansed out of my vessel. And then I remember looking over at the shaman, and he had these leaves that he like sings songs
Mhm.
with. And I just remember seeing him and just feeling the whole forest just holding him. So
Mm.
much biodiversity, all of the trees, the whole ecosystem, and all the intelligence of all of that nature was holding him as he was holding us. And to be in that kind of container in the Amazon, I feel like, oh, I don't think I would want to do ayahuasca in a
And
like non-traditional setting again. I've done many ceremonies in Malibu, in California, and different places, but having that experience
nice resort, right?
yeah, exactly. But there's nothing like being right in the middle of just abundant
Oh
nature
my
and all
God.
the sounds. It just takes you back to what is truly real. And I was
Mhm.
purging out a lot of like what we carry as a society, the addiction to more, all of the consumption that we have, all of this obsession with like outward success and seeking and looking, and all of that stuff was being cleansed out of my system, and helping me get in touch with like why am I really here and what really wants to come through me, and shifting my story around that.
And you know what I really liked that you mentioned there was the connection with the nature and our ancestors. That actually, we are so busy with ourselves, how much we want to achieve, that we forget where are we coming from.
Yeah,
And I believe that these are our roots. And if
yeah,
you don't recognize your roots, like mom, dad, your grandmother, grandparents, and etc., it's like I think you will never ever be able to feel stability and the safety and the certainty and security in the way when you are walking your path, because it's going to be shaky, right? But I think, there are all those generations and generations that are behind us. They've been doing so much work to put in us, me and you right now, right? Because we are speaking all this power and the experience in our DNA so that we can shine.
yeah,
And that's why I'm so grateful that I have this understanding and I acknowledge this, and I have this, great, great gratitude to my parents, to my grandparents, and I want to know more about them. Do you agree with me, right?
yeah, absolutely. And there has been a time on the planet that where we started to shift out of like tribal living and a lot of the earth worship and like a lot of the deep wisdom of nature and how to work with nature, and we kind of removed ourselves at some point as well, and that's when religion came in, and as a result, like control, ownership of land, ownership of women, like all of that. So there's like this trajectory that's happened over time, and along with that shift, our ancestors also have had a lot of fear. There's been wars, there's been things that like have created more separation versus unity. So on one side, there's a lot that we are still healing for our ancestors in our recent past. And also we have a long lineage of evolution as well, which gives us everything that we have today. You know, like so much of this dimension that we live in, like the physical dimension and everything that we benefit from, is long lineages of work and time and effort, and like there's been slave labor, you know, there's all sorts of stuff that's in our history. And so there's equally, like, there's an amazing amount of benefit that we're benefiting from in a huge way. And there's also a real call to do deep healing for our ancestors as well, and what they've been through, so that we can change patterns inside of ourselves as well, so that the future generations continue to benefit more and more and more as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Jennifer, what is your wealth formula?
My world formula,
Wealth formula. Wealth.
wealth formula.
Yes.
I like that. Organization. Yeah. Organization around and having really, really clean projections around what I'm going to be doing year by year, and having an organization around that, so I can make really healthy decisions and invest when I need to, and know how I'm going to move throughout the year. So having a really organized bank book around what we're launching, and then also just like reviewing the past as well, and like learning from the past, upgrading from the past, and continuing to refine, but having really clear projections. And in the past, like earlier on when I first started my business, we used to put these like massive projections of what we wanted to achieve. And they were like sometimes, and a lot of people say, and so that's why I'm saying, once again, this is just how I'm doing it. A lot of people say, put a number way out there that's so unachievable that you really grow, right? For me, what happened when I was putting really massive projections into what I wanted to achieve each year, or even in a launch, when we wouldn't get close to that, it
You
would
were
be like,
stressed.
can you hear me? Yep.
Yeah.
As we would grow towards it, like we're not quite there, then there would be like this lull, like in the
Mhm.
field, and also in how I showed up. But if I really know my numbers, if I really know what do I want to achieve this year that's realistic, that is a growth edge for me, that is the next level. So I'm always growing, but what is the next level truly that will allow me to cover all of my costs, invest where I want to invest, achieve the things that I want to achieve, make sure the whole team is paid, make sure I have whatever I want for my physical lifestyle, the way that I want to live, and anything that I want to save, right? Like have all of that mapped out. What is that number?
Mhm.
And what do we need to do as a business to get to that number? Okay, so now I know, like, that's kind of like the bare minimum of what we're doing, and anything above that is amazing, right? But at least like I've accounted for everything, and not just like the bare minimum of like, oh, like we're just like getting by, but like we want to be abundant as well. And what do we need to be abundant? And also like, what are we going to invest in when we have that level of abundance?
Mhm.
So having a very clear picture around that and knowing those numbers very clearly, I think a lot of the time when I train coaches, they don't even have like financial forecasts of what they need to make in order to survive for the year. You know,
Mhm.
they're just kind of like, how much should I charge for my services? You know,
Mhm.
like is it too much to charge for this? And I always
Mhm.
say like, well, what do you need to make for the whole year? How many hours do you want to work each year? And like based on that, if you were just doing one-on-one sessions, how much would each session need to be? Like let's break it down. Okay, and
Mhm.
if you don't want to just do one-on-one sessions, what is some diversity that we can bring into your portfolio as well, so that you're making multiple streams of income? Because sometimes you don't make all of that money from that one thing, right? Even though you would like to, if we can have some multiple streams of income, then we can catch up. Like, oh, we didn't achieve the number here, but we can make up for it over here. And we're constantly reassessing and pivoting and adjusting, so that we can reach that number that we're all going for, like that total. And so
Mhm.
like yeah, having multiple streams of income is super important, and being able to diversify and being able to check in every quarter, like, oh, where are we at now? Where do we need to be? What do we need to shift so that we can
Do you
get to
have a CEO or somebody who is running your company, or is this just you?
I run my company.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I made the decision that I don't want, because if I spend my energy leading my team, I just cannot do this. I see that it's just taking so much of my energy because everybody is requiring, some attention, meetings and everything else. And I don't know, like 3 years ago, I made this decision where I'm like, no, there will be somebody who will always run my team. And I will just be in my zone of genius, being on the stage, doing the courses. Otherwise, I'm saying no. It's like I'm getting too emotional, because I'm getting attached to people and I care about them and I'm so empathic, and this is draining my energy, and that's why I
Yeah. Well, I have a
yeah.
lead project manager that manages all the
Okay, this is
projects.
okay.
Yeah.
I see. Then that makes sense.
That's it. And
Yeah.
earlier on, we've tried hiring different people to do these. I had someone that might have been trained into CEO. It's a big role to pass on to someone that you really trust. They really need to know your business inside and out. And I think when you do get to a certain size, yeah, that would be time. I'm not there yet in my business where I really
Mhm.
want to pass that off. There will be a time, I'm sure, when I will, but right now it doesn't require a huge amount of my time because I have a lead project manager that
Yeah.
oversees
Then.
everything. So
Mhm.
she's like kind of the point of contact for design for all the different divisions.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we have a once a week team meeting, and everyone jumps on, and we all like talk about what we need, and that's pretty much it. And then sometimes there's a division that I really want to develop that I haven't developed yet, and I'll take that piece on.
Mm.
Until it's off to the races and then it's rolling and that person is self-empowered. But yeah, I think to your point, like there was a point where I was just before my team was really settled in, because like my team's been with me now, like the team that I've got, other than a couple of new people, like they've been with me for 7 years, so they all know what they're doing. They know what the brand is. They know how I work. They even know like how unreliable I am at sometimes, and they just like well they get me right. But at the start, when you're first hiring someone or you're starting to build your team, there's a lot of learning and a lot of hand holding that has to take place until you can kind of let go and everyone just runs their division.
Mhm. What is your support system on this journey? Like, do you work with some mentors? Do you have a coach?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, different times, different mentors and coaches. Like I had a really amazing head of marketing who came in for a few years with me. That was like a very deep mentor for me, and really helped guide me on some of the business stuff. And earlier on with my business, my partner at the time, who's a very successful entrepreneur, he was guiding the business. So, like in terms of like business mentoring, I was having that. I'm also a part of some high level like VIP groups. Networking groups that I can lean on as well with people that have done what I've done before. So I'm learning from those kinds of people.
Mhm.
And so that's all the business realm. And I'm always in something. Like I'm in two different programs right now.
Do you want
One
to share which programs?
yeah. I mean, one which is with the Belong Institute. So,
Yes.
Radha Agrawal, who's a very dear sister of mine, she has a program around building your brand and really like creating like a run a show, talking about all the different ways that you can attract like sponsors in and build things from the ground up. And she's just like a wealth of knowledge. And so I'm in that program with her right now. And then I'm in another writing program with Hay House around writing a book because I'm preparing to do a book. So yeah, so I'm in programs all the time. I'm constantly learning and developing because then I get to share that with everyone that I'm teaching as well.
I'm surprised how similar we are, just like I'm also always investing in myself, being in some groups, in some programs, and I guess this is exactly what is required if you want to be successful. And so many people, I've been one of Tony Robbins' coaches. I've done so much. I've built two successful businesses, and I'm surprised how people are just pushing, and they are afraid, especially if you are entrepreneur. I cannot understand how you are not investing in yourself money, like in your growth, in your development, in your mindset, in your knowledge. And for me, that's been the biggest shift and life changing
Yes.
decision when I just made a decision. Now I will not invest in my restaurants because I built like 8 restaurant chain and everything else, but I'm going to start to invest in myself. And
Yes.
whenever I started to invest in myself, in fact, when I had the highest investment back then, it was like 30,000 per year. That was the best year ever for me. Just
Wow.
because yes, when I
Yeah.
made this decision, and I remember, and I said, I went to my husband and I said, honey, I made a decision because back then maybe I invested like 10,000. I mean, not that much. And I said, honey, I made a decision. I will buy this program for 30,000. He's like, what? You know, are you sure? I'm confident.
Yeah.
And he did see my commitment and he didn't say anything. And that was the best decision. That's exactly when I learned to work 20 hours per week, not more, and still make money and be, super successful in my business. So I think,
Fabulous. Yeah, when
mm,
you invest in programs like that, you feel so much more comfortable charging
mm,
other people as well.
mm.
When I started investing in really high ticket mastermind groups and things like that, and I started to see like the benefit of those big investments and like how just one relationship from those builds your business.
What's
That's where
been the best investment for you, Jennifer? The best
I,
investment.
wow. Well, I mean, I at a mastermind group, I think it was like a $15,000
Hmm.
mastermind group for a weekend. I met Vishen from Mind Valley,
Hmm.
and that relationship with Mind Valley has, done so much more in an income level, and also like just building my database and my email list and spreading my work around the world. So, like just one mastermind like that, I put down 15K for 3 days,
Hmm.
and that one relationship has like continues to flourish,
Mm.
because then like, and that particular community I like feel so blessed to be a part of, and all the
Are
people
you
in that.
still in this community?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And my program is still there. Every 3 months I get a check from them. I go and I'm at their events, and yeah, we're still really deeply in
Are you
connection.
going to Estonia this year? Mind
Actually,
Valley University.
I was just looking at that. I think I am.
We're gonna meet there. I will be 3 weeks.
Oh, fabulous. You're going to be there?
Yes, for 3 weeks.
Ah, yay.
So
Nice.
we
Awesome.
will definitely meet. We will definitely
Beautiful.
meet and talk. Jennifer, last question. Where do you see yourself 3 years from now?
3 years. 3 years from now. Wow. Well, I'm not sure where I'm going to be based. I'm still deciding
Hmm.
if I want to get a permanent home in Mexico, if that's going to be my base. But I see a more permanent base, me actually buying a home and getting grounded into an actual home space. I love
Hmm.
creating home, and it's something that I did with my partner. We built homes, and like that's like a really beautiful foundation for me. So that's something
Mm.
that I would like to look at, getting a home, and then yeah, traveling, continuing to do what I'm doing, but maybe having like larger events. So like 1,000 to 2,000 people
Mm.
per event, and traveling, doing my Australian tour, Europe tour, USA tours, and having more of a setup around me in terms of the events. Like right now, we go on tour once a year, and we either do Australia or Europe, and just like really deepening those tours, deepening those locations, and then building my business and the certification, letting that become more filled up, which is an overflow from those tour events as well, because we do the tour, and then everyone from the tour we then bring into the digital program. So just like beefing that up more, and growing the audience and really having a beautiful like home life as well, and like deepening continually into my indigenous sacred practices and having time to really commune with the earth and share that wisdom and inviting people into those sacred spaces with me as well in retreat settings.
Mm, I love that. Jennifer, it's been such a beautiful, beautiful conversation. I enjoyed every single moment of our conversation. If people want to find you, where they can find you, and maybe there is something that you want to give a gift or something to the community.
Yes, 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 yes. So you can either go to my website, which is jenniferpartridge.com, or you can go to my Instagram, Jennifer_Partridge. And on my website, I have a free tapping basics course on there. So if you're new to tapping, you want to learn about tapping, you can just sign up there. There's a little form, and it's a really beautiful 3 or 4 day course which introduces you to tapping, gives you some free tapping sessions, and you can get introduced into the work that way.
Hmm? Thank you so much. Thank
Nice.
you. And looking forward to speaking to you very, very soon, Jennifer. Thank
Thanks
you.
for your time. Really enjoyed it as well.